Everything to know about The Summer I Turned Pretty, the movie. It turns out the series finale episode wasn't the end of Amazon's hit series. Warning: the following contains spoilers for The Summer I Turned Pretty, both the TV series and the books. Read at your own risk. And they lived happily ever after. Or did they? Even though The Summer I Turned Pretty aired its series finale with Belly, Lola Tung, and Conrad Christopher Briney returning hand in hand to Cousins Beach after a Trace romantic reunion in Paris, there's apparently still more to the story of Belly, Conrad, Jeremiah, Gavin Casalegno, and the other folks from Cousins Beach remaining to be told. Fortunately, we know the rest of the story is coming, in the form of a surprise movie that's going to cap everything off. It's huge news for the rabid fanbase that has made The Summer I Turned Pretty into one of Amazon Prime Video's biggest hits. Let's see what we know about the newly announced film thus far. When is The Summer I Turned Pretty movie going to be released? No timetable for the finale movie has been revealed, but The Summer I Turned Pretty author, co-showrunner Jenny Han is not in any particular hurry. I don't know when it will be out, but I don't think it's safe to say next year because we haven't filmed it yet, Han told Variety. I honestly, really want that extra time, because it's just getting the actors a little bit closer to adulthood. We're getting to see Belly at 15, turning 16, and then seeing her as this young woman. And now Lola is 22. I think that I always wanted some distance for the movie, so I'm really glad to get that breathing space. We'll talk about the potential story ramifications of that comment in a moment, but what this means for the release date of The Summer I Turned Pretty movie is that you'll may have to wait a couple years for this ending. Will The Summer I Turned Pretty movie be released in theaters? Nothing is known about Amazon's release plans for the movie, but the fact that it's being specifically classified as a film instead of several new episodes means some sort of a theatrical release, even if it's just a one-day-only sort of event, is certainly possible. It's unlikely that they've made any decisions about this yet. What will the movie be about? While Prime Video hasn't specifically said anything about the plot, Han gave us a pretty significant clue in a quote she gave in the announcement about the movie. There is a big milestone left in Belly's journey, and I thought only a movie could give it its proper due. I'm so grateful to Prime Video for continuing to support my vision for this story and for making it possible to share this final chapter with the fans. While the book series ended with Conrad and Belly getting married, the show simply ended with the pair getting back together in France and restarting their relationship. That means Han is almost certainly telling us that Belly and Connie's wedding will be the focus of the movie, since that's Belly's only remaining milestone that was in the novels but not the show. That said, the wedding probably won't go exactly the way you might think, since the epilogue of the third novel doesn't have enough content to support a movie's worth of storytelling. Jenny Han, who will direct the film as well as co-write it, will certainly need to expand this part of the story for the movie, but it's tough to guess what exactly that will involve. But we do know one major thing. There will be a big time skip, of at least a year, between the series finale and the movie, as Han seems to want the actors to be the same age in the movie as they are in real life when they shoot it, and star Lola Tung is still a year younger than Belly is in the book's epilogue. The Summer I Turned Pretty movie cast and crew. Jenny Han will direct and co-write the film along with co-showrunner Sarah Kucherka, and we should expect to see just about the entire main cast back as well. The Summer I Turned Pretty grew up in its final episodes and became better than the books. The changes the Prime Video series made gave Belly, Conrad, and Jeremiah a satisfying send-off. It's a truth universally acknowledged that when a novel is adapted for the screen, the book is almost always better. But what happens when it's not? Well, as The Summer I Turned Pretty proves, that's when things get really interesting. No disrespect to Jenny Han's beloved literary trilogy, it's sweet and the perfect fit for its intended romance-loving demo. But the tweaks made to those novels for the Prime Video adaptation, Han's the showrunner. So it's not like these changes are coming without her approval. From the very beginning have not only opened up the story of Belly Conklin, Lola Tung, and her angst over loving the brothers Conrad Christopher Briney and Jeremiah Gavin Casalegno Fisher to a wider audience. But they've also deepened the story by expanding its world. If viewers only knew how non-existent Stephen, Sean Kaufman Taylor, Rain Spencer, and even Laurel, Jackie Chung, are in the novels compared to their on-screen counterparts, and offering a more nuanced take on what's really at the heart of the drama at Cousins Beach. And more specifically, it's the two major changes made to the third novel, We'll Always Have Summer, that allow the series to grow beyond its roots and give these characters a much more satisfying send-off than the novels offered. Listen, it was always going to be Belly and Conrad in the end. It was obvious in the novels and even more so in the TV series. But just because the ending is obvious doesn't mean Belly and Conrad don't have to earn their happily ever after. The series, thankfully, makes them earn it. In the third and final novel, the main action ends with Belly and Jerry calling off the wedding that was doomed from the jump, and then we get a short epilogue that mentions Belly's time in Paris and shows us some of Conrad's letters, and it all takes place several years in the future, on the day of Belly and Conrad's wedding. It is a major cop-out. It completely skips the most interesting part of the entire mess that Belly, Jeremiah, and Conrad have created. Do not kid yourself, they are all at fault here, which is the aftermath. Conrad declaring his love for Belly the night before her wedding to his brother and forcing Belly and Jerry to face some truths they've been attempting to bury not only implodes their three lives and their various relationships to one another, but also affects everyone in their orbit. How do all of these people react to what's happened? How does anyone recover from this? Will someone point out that this is what happens when the only two people you've had sex with are related? It's a disaster, but figuring out how to survive the disaster makes for great storytelling opportunities. While the book gives us a few pages skimming over the highlights of this time in our main characters' lives, the TV series gives us 3 episodes of it, and it's the smartest change from page to screen the series made. Aside from giving Jackie Chung's Laurel and Rachel Blanchard's Susanna a real storyline, sending love to my queens. In these 3 final episodes, Belly is in Paris figuring out how to pronounce croissant, and also who she is without the Fisher brothers. Jeremiah is picking up the pieces and making real changes, and Conrad is, well, okay. Conrad is mostly moping, as is tradition, but eventually he finds a way to go after what he wants in a less selfish, more thoughtful way than before. The summer I Turned Pretty was rife with tension since day one. Which brother is the best brother? And that hit its peak in season 3, as the countdown to this wedding ticked on until all hell broke loose. The 3 final episodes, then, felt like the show taking a deep breath. These were some of the best episodes of the series, because it felt like they finally gave our main trio some room to breathe and therefore room to grow. Honestly, I think the series would have benefited from spending a larger portion of the season in this section of the story and less on the wedding planning and Michael's commercials. But even in just these 3 hours, we got scenes that were very much needed if we were ever going to believe in a real Belly-Conrad reunion and healing all around. One of those scenes is a much-needed face-to-face between Conrad and Jeremiah. On paper, that relationship is actually one of the more interesting ones, even if in the series it felt half-baked, which is a shame for several reasons, but especially because the few scenes when the Fisher boys get vulnerable with one another are meaty and affecting. One such scene takes place in the closing episodes of the series, when after months the boys finally have a face-to-face conversation at their mother's grave. It's important emotionally because it gives both of them room to explain themselves to each other and the audience, and dramatically because it sets in motion a conceivable way for each to move forward without anyone getting vilified. However, the real standout scene in this trio of episodes, the one that highlights exactly why this separation from cousins was necessary for the story to develop, is, of course, Belly and Conrad's big blowout in the finale. Conrad, with a blessing, good luck, from Jerry, surprises Belly in Paris a year or so after the wedding, and the two spend an awkward day sightseeing and a boozy evening with Belly's new friends celebrating her birthday. He's no longer bashful about why he came to Paris, he loves her. Their romantic stroll home turns into a sweaty, steamy sex-a-thon in Belly's apartment. Tung and Briney's chemistry has only grown in the past 3 seasons. Afterward, however, they finally have the talk they need to have if this is ever going to actually work. It's quite a mature conversation for them in this series, examining both of their insecurities in this relationship and, most importantly, finally acknowledging that their grief over Susanna's death has informed a lot of their decision-making and they can't ignore that. For their relationship to ever work, Belly had to hear that the fact that Susanna wanted these two to get together, that woman had issues, yeah, I said it. Closing parenthesis. Has nothing to do with why Conrad loves her. She needs to hear how sure he is in order to examine her own feelings more clearly. I mean, is it insane that she examines those feelings for all of 15 seconds before she realizes she really loves him and makes her big rom-com run through Paris and onto that train to Brussels to tell him that every version of her would choose him? Yes, the show could have used one more episode to let Belly figure out her feelings. But was it also insanely romantic? Hell yes. The other big change from page to screen that really makes the series work has to do with Jeremiah. Oh, the character assassination that happens to this guy in the 3rd novel. The reveal that Jeremiah always knew about the emotional affair going on between Belly and Conrad since they met up in Cousins over Christmas was exactly the kind of wrinkle his character and his relationship needed for some added depth to the situation. The series never uses this as an excuse for having sex with someone else in Cabo. I agree with Taylor, straight talker extraordinaire, that they were technically on a break, but it does make it easier to empathize with him. His issues being the second son and always compared to his perfect older brother run deep, so you can understand how the knowledge would make him spiral into bad choices. And while not easy, it also makes it easier for him to forgive, since once he's honest with himself, he can admit that he always knew Belly and Conrad would choose each other. Since we have limited time for such a shift, this twist in the plot helps move things along. It also informs his actions following the wedding, forcing him to stop being a victim and take control of his life. By shedding those insecurities, he's able to realize what he wants. By the end of the finale, he's making a name for himself as an up-and-coming chef. The speed at which this happens is ridiculous, but again, I believe in Taylor Jewell and her PR prowess. Having a much mentally healthier Jeremiah fall for Denise Isabella Briggs, someone who knows him outside of being Conrad's brother and who, frankly, finds Conrad's brooding annoying, is also a nice nod to him moving past his second son hang-ups. Since the finale of The Summer I Turned Pretty aired and a very much in love Belly and Conrad returned to Cousins hand in hand, it's been announced that Belly's story isn't over yet. There will be a movie to really wrap things up. It certainly feels unnecessary and like fan service for those hungry for a Belly-Conrad wedding. I mean, I'll obviously watch it, I'm not psychotic. Still, the series as a whole deserves praise for the satisfying way it concluded, even if it's not really the end. The final season, but especially the last 3 episodes, seem to say that the point of this whole exercise isn't actually about who Belly chooses, but rather about all 3 of these people growing up. It took the conflict and implosion of this bizarre, intense love triangle for that to happen. In the aftermath, we watch as Jeremiah learns how to take responsibility for his choices, Conrad figures out how to be brave, and Belly gains confidence in who she is and is therefore able to trust her feelings. It's easy to write off a show like The Summer I Turned Pretty as silly, and it definitely is that at times. The title itself, that she willingly goes by the name Belly, I could go on, but the final season delivered a fitting and surprisingly mature conclusion to a coming-of-age story. There's nothing silly about that.